Welcome to another episode of the Bug Bite hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where we are engineered to win. Today's episode, we're going to be reviewing about the GM Cruise car crash, which dragged, yes, I repeat, dragged a pedestrian. So let's jump right into the article and let's find out what happened. All right, so today's article is brought to us by Reuters. And the title is GM's Cruise recalling 950 driverless cars after pedestrian dragged in crash. And this happened a few months ago, right? This article was published November 8th, 2023. So let's find out a little bit more, okay? So Cruise is recalling 950 driverless cars from the roads across the United States following a crash involving one of its robo-taxis and will likely issue more recalls, General Motors self-driving unit said. The cars are being recalled because the collision detection subsystem of the Cruise Automated Driving System, ADS, software may respond improperly after a crash. Okay, wow. So when I heard about this, I did not know this was the story. So after an accident actually happens, it doesn't respond properly and it can make matters much, much worse. Okay. So, according to the notice made public by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration on Wednesday. All right. So, the recall is the latest setback for GM's Cruise unit that faces growing questions about its technology that GM says it's key to its growth plans. So, and when you make these type of claims, right, as a company, and then you start having these type of issues, you can just see the cash flow dry up. So that's not a good sign. That if this is the key to growth, and then now you are recalling cars, and your cars are dragging pedestrians across the street. So, right. So it says GM's chief executive Mary Barra reiterated in June a forecast Cruise could generate $50 billion. Yes, I repeat. $50 billion in revenue by 2030. Cruise lost more than $700 million in the third quarter of this year. Not exactly on the way to $50 billion, but it is what it is. GM share fell by 1.6% to 27.95 on Wednesday. Last month, a pedestrian in San Francisco was struck by a hit-and-run driver and thrown into the adjacent lane and was hit by a second time. Oh my goodness, it's just not this person's day apparently, right? Hit a second time by a Cruise robotaxi that was not able to stop in time and then dragged the pedestrian. What a day for this pedestrian. Not only struck by a hit and run driver, but also thrown into another lane just to be hit by a driverless robotaxi and be dragged across the street. All right. So the recall addresses circumstances when the software may cause the Cruise AV to attempt to pull over out of traffic instead of remaining stationary when a pullover is not the desired post-collision response. So pretty much it's programmed to pull over when there's an accident, but that's not always the best thing to do because you can end up dragging someone or running them over or whatever the case may be, all right? Cruise said last month it would halt nationwide after California regulators suspended the robotaxi's operator's license, saying the Cruise self-driving vehicle were a risk to the public. The company on Monday said it is temporarily halting production of its fully autonomous Cruise Origin. So that is a tough news for GM and for Cruise and for the employees of Cruise, but it is trying to contribute to the safety of pedestrians who may or may not get hit by a hit and run driver, thrown into the adjacent lane, and then get dragged by the Cruise. Okay. So Cruise said it determined a similar collision with a risk of serious injury could have occurred every 10 million to 100 million miles of driving on average prior to the software update. Cruise is facing 2 federal investigations over the safety of its cars, including 2 incidents where the robot cars appeared not to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk. So apparently the robot cars are driving just like humans, especially humans in South Florida. So, that's a tough one. All right. As our software improves, it is likely we file additional recalls to inform both NHTSA and the public of updates to enhance safety across our fleet. Well, with laying off of employees as well, that makes it a little bit hard to get these updates out there. So we shall see what happens. Cruise, which has operations in Phoenix, Arizona, Houston, Austin, and Dallas in Texas, and Miami, is in a race with Alphabet's Waymo unit and others to bring robot cars to the market. Cruise is conducting a search to hire a chief safety officer and has hired law firm Quinn Emanuel to conduct an outside review. So that is the article from Reuters, written by David Shepardson, right, about why GM Cruise had to recall 950 driverless cars back in November after dragging a pedestrian who was hit originally by a hit and run driver, thrown into the line of sight of the Cruise driverless car, and then dragged a little bit more. So that is tough. All right, so let's get back here, and yeah. So that's our article for today. That is the bug that we're reviewing with GM, and I want you to think about how these affect the companies, affect the customers, the pedestrians, right? Like, and do they have a lawsuit against GM? Definitely that hit and run driver is at fault, and I hope they are caught and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But now, what happens if what happens to GM? Because so they had to recall 950 vehicles and probably more by now, right? They are facing scrutiny against the public as well as federal regulators. So many things are happening. Now, I'm guessing this pedestrian could probably have a lawsuit as well. So I always wonder, right, what kind of testing protocols are in place for these systems when putting together these automated systems. Like, how do you know when to stop? How do you know when to pull over? How do you know if you keep going? Like, I'm curious about the testing procedures, and that should be a question that's asked when these are being reviewed and when they're being investigated about what are the testing procedures that were done. That's not going to be done after, but that was done prior, right? Prior to putting these on the street, like what? Because you remember back in the days where they would show these crash test dummies, right? Like, show me around, show me what's being done. What are the test plans? Right? What were the requirements? What were the test plans? What is the strategy that's being done so that this could have been prevented? And let's say that let's say that everything crossed off and something still happened. There was bugs making it to production, but it also depends on the type of bug that's making it into production. Because if the bug that's making it into production is costing people their lives or great bodily injury, then we have a serious problem, and then we need to go back to the drawing board, and we can't let this happen, right? So that is my thoughts as a senior QA engineer and as a technical coach on this topic and how we can move forward trying to better test and troubleshoot.
This is a nothing burger.
Prevent these type of things from happening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in and watching another episode of The Bug Bite, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can know every time we go live. Like the video, share the video, leave me a comment. And if you haven't done so yet, check out the Patreon at www.techcoachralph.dev, where you can sign up for one-on-one coaching with me, and I will help you get to the next step. All right. But on that note, thanks for tuning in again. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.
Enigmatic joke.